Welcome to What's Your St. John's Story, a 30-minute segment sponsored by St. John's United, highlighting connectivity within our community through storytelling. I am Rachel Simonson with the St. John's Foundation, and today we're talking about the topic of who cares? And it really means about who cares for our elders in our community. And I'm with David Trost, our CEO at St. John's United, and Tom Schlotterback, Vice President of Mission Advancement for St. John's United and President of the St. John's Foundation. So welcome to you both.
Thanks.
I'm just going to give you a minute each to introduce yourself, tell us how long you've been at St. John's, and we'll just go from there.
David Trost, CEO of St. John's United, and Rachel, I feel like I've been at St. John's forever. I've been there 27 years. I started there in 1995, and I have been blessed to be a part of, really, honestly, almost every major change that's happened at St. John's over that last 27 years. And for every change that has been made, it has been a blessing to this community and a blessing to those that we serve.
Absolutely. Well, you are here today because we have a lot of changes going on at St. John's and within the landscape of skilled care across the state. So you'll bring great perspective to that for us. So Tom, tell us about your experience at St. John's.
Yeah, sure. My first connection at St. John's began in 1997 when I served as a Lutheran pastor in one of our local congregations. And I had opportunity virtually every week to come and visit our parishioners who were residents or patients being served at St. John's. So that was my introduction, and I early on gained great appreciation and affection for what the people did up there. And then in the year 2001, I was invited to serve on the board of directors, and I did so for 9 years, including 3 years as chair of the board and 3 years on the foundation board as well. And then I've more recently served on staff as an employee at St. John's for the last 8 years. So.
Mm-hmm. And so you will bring a wealth of historical perspective as well. We're going to start with what's going on in the landscape of skilled care across the state of Montana. It's been in the news lately. Speak a little bit about what's happening and the impact that that's having.
Yeah, certainly. We're going through what could at least be called a time of disruption currently. We've had 7 nursing homes closed in the state of Montana in just the last couple of weeks. 3 of those were in the western portion of our state. 4 of those were quite a bit closer to home, the cities of Bozeman, Malta, Red Lodge, also Hardin. And so that's had a great impact in those communities and the people being served there. Anytime a nursing home closes, it impacts not only the resident who happened to be living there, who now must move and relocate to another home, but it certainly disrupts the life of the family members, the loved ones, and even the friends of those residents. So we're going through a great disruption right now, and time will tell where we end up with it all, but it's an important conversation to have, not only locally here in Billings, but across the state of Montana.
And we'll talk more about how we got here, but this isn't something that just came up out of the pandemic. This has been coming for a long time, right?
The pandemic certainly exacerbated realities that were already on the move, but this has been a train whistle that we've been listening to for quite a long time coming down the tracks. I think, as so is often the case with great challenges, people would just as soon not hear the train whistle coming. But now the train has arrived. We have an aging population in Montana. Per capita, we're the 6th oldest state among the 50 for people who are 65 and above, and increasing in that number. So it's not going to go away. We're going to have to address it one way or another.
Absolutely. And what we're talking about here is Medicaid dollars that are allotted to nursing homes for reimbursements. David, will you talk a little bit about the difference between Medicare and Medicaid? Because I think a lot of people don't understand the difference and how Medicaid impacts skilled care.
Well, Medicaid and Medicare are definitely significantly different. One is an entitlement for all people for hospital and hospital-type care. That's Medicare. And everyone who's age 65 and has paid into Social Security qualifies for Medicare, and they receive short-term care. For St. John's, that means that those who come to seek our services for restorative care or rehabilitation are covered under Medicare. Medicaid is not is an entitlement that everyone is eligible for if they meet certain criteria, and that criteria is financial. And so it serves, though it's an insurance program that that all citizens have paid into, and it's a safety net. And the safety net pays for those if you run out of resources. And so not everyone will be a beneficiary of Medicaid. And so, and Medicaid is not just a state program, but it's a state and federal partnership. And the funding that the state receives from the federal government is dependent on how much the state's willing to contribute. And so, depending on those levels, every state gets a different allotment of funds for Medicaid. And our state has elected a certain level of funding, and so it gets a certain level of federal resources, and those funds are turned back to care providers to provide care for those who are the most frail among us.
So these are tax dollars.
These are tax
contributed
dollars.
by citizens who pay taxes. And who allots those dollars? Who makes that decision on the state level?
Yeah, on the state level, it would be the Department of Public Health and Human Services. They actually administrate the money that's appropriated by the legislature. And so depending on how much money the legislature appropriates for Medicaid, senior living, senior housing, and senior care will determine what that federal match is. And then that amount of money is pooled together and redistributed by the Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay, so the people that we elect go to the state legislature every 2 years. They decide how the money gets apportioned,
Right.
and then it gets sent over to the Department of Health and Human Services. Okay, so talk a little bit, David, about how then the reimbursements for elder care work, because all this money that the Department of Health and Human Services goes towards children's care, care for people who are working, the working poor, and then elderly.
Yeah, you know, I'll speak on firsthand experience of being the CEO of St. John's and how it comes into us. The St. John's has a contract with the state to serve the state's Medicaid senior population. And in that contract, they will pay St. John's a fixed fee for providing those services. Today, that amount is around $212 a day. Our costs to provide that care are north of $350 a day. So that difference of $130, $140 a day is adding up to quite a significant deficit. And so what nursing homes are having to face, and ours isn't the only story, I can just talk firsthand, but I can see how providers across the state have had to make the tough decision to close their doors. Even at St. John's, Rachel, we have closed or reduced our capacity from 186 beds down to 120 beds. That means we have closed a 66 bed nursing home ourselves. And so we've had to do that, otherwise our challenges would even be exponentially higher than they are today. The challenges that we have today are not sustainable. Our board of directors, myself, our leadership team are having conversations daily, weekly about what is our next step. How are we going to adapt? And Rachel, let me assure you, we will adapt, but not everyone will like the decisions that are made. But St. John's is too important to this community to fail. And so we will adapt. We will continue to seek the community's support to serve those that we can, but we can no longer subsidize the care that we're providing at the levels we're providing today. A level of $3 million a year that we are losing due to this. It's by the grace of our donors who are helping to support the bills and those few little businesses that we have that do make a small margin to fill the gap.
Yeah, and that's where St. John's is unique in the world of elder care, because we do have service lines all the way from independent living all the way through to the skilled care, and then some others as well that aren't directed at older adults. Tom likes to call it serving the arc of life.
The arc of life.
The arc of
indeed.
life, absolutely. So, Tom, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about how all this, what is the impact of all this to St. John's? And from the philanthropic perspective, what do we do about this?
Yeah, certainly. The realities that David just described are well known to the St. John's Foundation. And the purpose of the St. John's Foundation is to sustain St. John's United financially in every way possible, and also to provide volunteer services as well. And together these do help to keep St. John's in good health. In the year 2017, this matter of the Medicaid gap, as we sometimes call it, was becoming more amplified. And so we took a look at that, did a feasibility, whether we could go to our donors, our stakeholders, and invite them to consider helping us close that gap financially by engaging in a campaign that would raise funds that would be endowed, and that we could then draw upon the earnings in the future to help sustain the lives of residents who've exhausted their resources. So in the year 2018, we went into a leadership campaign and invited those people that have historically shown love and affection for us, and they considered gifting, and they came through in a very big way. They offered $6.5 million in financial commitments or immediate gifts. And then when we reached that level, we went into a public campaign, and we raised another $1.7 million. So we'll have eventually, as these planned gifts mature, about $8 million, and we'll be able to draw earnings off those funds. That's going to help us. It won't solve everything, but because St. John's has a history of philanthropy with its donors, its stakeholders, this gives us an opportunity to engage actively and not just sit back and let this activity of closure kind of consume us. So we're very hopeful, and we'll stay the course. Ideally, if we were able to bite off $60 million currently in today's value, that would fill this gap that David speaks of with our current residents. That's not realistic, but we've taken a good bite out of it with $8 million, so we'll keep advancing as years go by.
Great, and I just want to connect the dots between the people who are served by the philanthropic dollars, the Medicaid gap, but it's not just that the philanthropy affects them, it actually affects the ability of everybody to be able to come to St. John's, because in these communities that have had to close nursing homes, the private pay people now don't have any place to go either. And so that really that's hard on the community. And so in order to sustain St. John's for the benefit of Billings community, we are actively working to encourage people to support philanthropically. The elders, is it about the size of it?
Yeah, when St. John's was founded in 1960, the corporation formally began. 1963, residents began moving in. Those founders were responding to a real human need in Yellowstone County. There was an aging population, and there was a need for housing for these people. We're living in the wake of the founders still. The realities, the dynamics of it all have changed. The funding systems have been altered some, but it's the same challenge. And so the work we do now, it's just as impactful as it was in the 1960s. So we have to stay the course and make this happen.
All right, so let's talk with David about staying the course, the missional aspect of St. John's. We talk about providing living opportunities within nurturing environments of hope, dignity, and love. And that's our guiding star. That's our beacon every day when we show up to work. Talk a little bit about the changes that are coming down the pike and how the missional aspect of that is always reflected.
You know, it's interesting, Rachel, when you talk about the mission being our guiding star, you'd think that would be an easy reach. And it sounds so, really honestly, so beautiful, to provide living opportunities within nurturing environments of hope, dignity, and love. I talked to many of my counterparts in the community that provide similar services, and they say, "Oh, you guys have it all made, and it's all easy." And I said, that mission statement, it creates a lot of turmoil for everyone who operates and works and leads St. John's. What it doesn't define for us is who. To provide living opportunities within nurturing environments of hope, dignity, and love does not say for seniors, for employees, for the entire community. And so we have to take that and try to figure out, how does that impact? We want to be that mission for everyone. But the resources now, the missional impact of all these changes and the challenges we have economically, we're having to put screens on who that mission is for. So, in my most darkest moments, I'll say, yeah, we provide living opportunities within nurturing environments of hope, dignity, and love for the very few. And that's what it feels like sometimes, Rachel. And so that's why we have to work so hard to raise funds and to find other resources so that we can continue to grow who we serve and do. We also are having to change the way we access care, too. So many people think our mission is around serving the poor. And so if that is our mission, which it's only a portion of how our mission impacts people, then maybe the poor have to receive services at a different spot in life. And so we have just recently, in the last 2 years, gone under this adventure of opening this project that we call Chapel Court Apartments. It's a 56-unit low-income housing project that's beautiful, and the residents who live there just love it. These residents make 40% of the area median income. They are impoverished, and they have this life that's a fitting of our mission to provide living opportunities within nurturing environments of hope, dignity, and love. And we have a waiting list that's just immense. But we can't just keep building projects for affordable housing. St. John's will continue to have the challenges it has if we do that. So we have to balance that with our community and make resources available to the whole breadth of the community, including middle market and even upper income levels of housing, so that the balance of the community is there to support the entire community, which includes the poor. Mm-hmm. And so as the community sees us repositioning and redeveloping, we will not abandon those that are poor, but we will help to balance the community so that we can sustain serving the poor.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so,
and how are we delivering care differently than in years past?
Yeah, I think care differently is we're creating more care around a longer span of life. And so those who seek us earlier in their life, we will be able to care for throughout their life. So what we'll see in terms of the outward facing St. John's will be access to housing services, not necessarily healthcare services. Mm-hmm. And as they need healthcare in the future, we will be there for those individuals. So people have to make decisions a little earlier and then we won't abandon them. We like to say at St. John's, once you're in the family, you'll always be in the family. And that continues, but we're going to have to access people earlier in life so that we can know them and be with them for that longer period and provide better care as they transition throughout the phases of their life. And then we're also doing this in new places. Not just in the traditional bricks and mortar of St. John's, but in people's homes. Mm-hmm. And so we're accessing people through within their homes with the same level of care that we're providing at our independent living or assisted living facilities. And if they need health care, then we've got our home health agency that will step in and provide what might have been in a bricks and mortar nursing home. And so we're trying to create different ways in which people can thrive in a place they call home. Now, we all want something different. I actually want that community life when I look at retirement. I want to be with other people. That's what brings me joy. And so, but there's a lot of folks who I know want to have a more reclusive life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they still need support. They still need someone to help them shovel the snow. They still need someone to help them fix the faucet and reset the internet. And so those are things that we can be there to accompany them with.
Yes, and for those people who do want to receive the services in their home, oftentimes they have family members who have moved away far and wide to seek employment for themselves, raise their families in other places. So it really does fall to community services like St. John's to build the village around the people. Tom, what are some other final thoughts that you'd like to add to the conundrum of who cares for our older adults?
Well, it's a great question. Who cares? St. John's cares, obviously. Historically, that's been the case. But we're having to be far more creative, more innovative, more nimble as we provide the care services that David spoke of. He's absolutely right. Everyone's different. What they desire and the measure of care, the location of care is different, one household to the next, one person to the next. So we're going to have to continue to be responsive to that. I would certainly say that at a board level, at a management level, and all the way down to our frontline staff, people want to offer the best care possible. That's at the heart of what St. John's is all about. So I'm confident that we'll give a good effort, but David's right, it is more challenging as time goes by to figure out how we're going to do this in a financially sustainable way. So that's going to be our great challenge. But we care. I believe the community of Billings cares, and we'll have to be, again, very innovative in how we join in partnerships. I don't think there's any one organization or agency that can provide the level of care that an aging population will require. But working together with others, we'll make some good advances with that.
And I think the reason that we've called this show, What's Your St. John Story, is that we know that the community cares, because when we are out and about in the community, they all have a St. John story. Most people's lives have been touched in some way, shape, or form by St. John's. And so we know that that care for St. John's exists in the community. So like I do with everybody who's been here, and you two have both been here before, and you have shared your St. John story, but in light of our topic today, I'm going to give you an opportunity to reflect on what's your St. John's story, David?
I'm trying to come up with something different than last time, but I want to go back. I would like to maybe in my St. John story go back to who cares. Tom says we care, so I care, because he said we care, so it includes me, so I care. Mm-hmm. You said the community cares, Rachel, and I want to challenge that and just ask the community, do you care? Because if you do, how are you going to help us solve this problem and these challenges? I care, and I express my St. John story of employment. I express my St. John story is my gift to serve, and serve a community that represents the whole of the community. We employ our citizens, we serve our citizens, we house our citizens, we feed our citizens, and that's I've lived at St. John's now for 27 years, and so it's become my story, and I have a hard time even telling it anymore because it's just so much a part of me. And if anyone ever wants to challenge my sincerity of what we are trying to do at St. John's, I I don't know, Rachel. I would lay on a sword for St. John's.
Thank you. And Tom?
Yeah, what's my St. John's story? I'll take a little different approach. I will turn 63 in November, so I see myself, together with my wife Sarah, as ever getting closer to residing within a St. John's community. So it's been an interesting journey the last few years. I've observed friends and people I've known for a long time who have now moved into St. John's communities, and for me, it becomes all the more personal that I want St. John's to do really well, to provide excellent care for those who I care about. And I'll obviously want the same for Sarah and for me. But I'm right at the threshold of getting on the waiting list, and someday looking forward to being part of one of those communities. And I'll be much like David. I look forward to the community life because I see the benefits that it offers. So my St. John's story is evolving and advancing, but it's taking me soon, literally, right as one being served by this organization. So I hope when the question is raised a few years out from now, who cares? I hope somebody says we do, so that care can be there for Sarah and me as well, and the friends that we love. So it really matters.
It does matter. It does matter. So thank you both for coming and talking today about kind of a heavy topic, but one of great importance throughout the community of Billings, the state of Montana, the country that we live in, because who cares impacts all of us at some point in our lives. So thank you again for coming. And this has been another segment of What's Your St. John's Story. We look forward to having you join us again for the next one. Thank you.
For generations, St. John's has united us with its uplifting vision and lives it has touched. There are thousands of stories about St. John's. Prayers answered for a long-awaited adoption, pain-free relief after healing from injury, settling into a new home for the next phase of life, the comfort of compassionate end-of-life care, the joy that comes from volunteering, and at-home help that supports the fullest life. At St. John's, we are creating community and bringing families together. We offer many services for home, health, and family, from childcare, support for an unplanned pregnancy, and physical therapy, to home health care, senior living services, and hospice care. For all times of life, we are here for you. The heartwarming stories of St. John's are woven into the fabric of our community. What's your St. John's story?